Welcome back to my channel, guys. It is slowly becoming our channel. Um, this guy is on every video now, it seems like. He's just invading. Hostile takeover.
Hostile
And,
takeover.
and it makes sense since we're going to be talking about some evil people today. That is, we are going to be talking about the Lex Luthors. We did a Superman ranking. We did a Lois Lane ranking. Now we're going to do a Lex Luthor ranking.
Give
Live
us the
action.
Jimmy Olsen ranking.
Where was the Quali Sullivan ranking?
Just one psychopath.
Yeah, basically. So we're going to be ranking the live action Lex Luthors today. Again, this isn't going to include everybody, and we're going to omit the animated movies and animated TV shows as well. We're not going to have the same number of people on our lists.
Shout out to Clancy Brown, by the way. Amazing.
Yeah, Clancy Brown's amazing. He's an amazing voice actor as Lex Luthor. He's just not going to make the list. Rainn Wilson is a weird voice actor for Lex Luthor.
James Marsters voiced him once.
Did he really?
In Superman Doomsday back in the day. The first attempt to do Death of Superman that sucked.
I'm glad they redid that because Death of Superman was good. I wasn't huge on Reign of the Superman though.
Yeah.
But yeah, this isn't going to include everybody for me. Pat has 5. I have 4. So we are gonna get right down to it.
Wait, do you have John Cryer on your list?
I did not put him on there.
Neither did I, because I haven't seen enough of him. But I just want to shout out the fact he was Lenny Luthor, and then they brought him back decades later to be Lex Luthor. That's genius.
In Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Uncle Lex.
I also have to give a shout out, even though he was not a Lex Luthor. He was Lex Luthor's daddy to John Glover as Lionel Luthor.
He was magnificent.
Best worst parent ever. That dude, whew, just amazing. We might talk about him more when we get to a certain point on this list. But since you have 5 and I have 4, what is your number 5?
I think it's pretty obvious. If anybody watched our worst comic book list,
is it Pipsqueak?
Yeah.
Yes.
Eisenberg's that number at the bottom, man.
I love you, man.
How could he be any higher up? I will admit, there are some scenes where his dialogue in the hands of either a different actor or with different direction for his character could have been pretty good for Lex. There are some scenes where I'm like, he's talking about philosophy and gods and things that could be good, but instead he
it's cherry.
Woo! I just every part of my body pretty much disagrees with that interpretation of Lex.
And I get everybody out there is gonna be like, well, they were adapting Superman Birthright.
It's like, sure, yeah, but can we adapt, 99% of the other things that Lex was in where he wasn't like that?
Exactly. Like his whole motivation, I mean, he's last on my list too. He's my number 4. His whole motivation just makes no sense. He's like, God versus man. We're gonna pit them against each other. I'm like, fuck off, buddy.
Well, it doesn't make sense because he's saying, oh yeah, it's God versus man. He hates Superman. So he tries to make his whole convoluted scheme to make Batman go after Superman. But then at the same time, he's making Doomsday. And I'm like, why? Why is that your contingency, making something way worse than Superman? What? It was stupid. And just the way his performance would have been perfect for Riddler, would have been perfect for some sort of crazy...
Yeah, dude, I could buy Pipsqueak as Riddler.
That could have been Edward Nygma, Jesse Eisenberg could have been a great Edward Nygma, and instead he's a very weird Lex Luthor, where they tried to make it more less of a business tycoon and more of he's a millennial, Silicon Valley type guy, and I'm like, no, they tried to make freaking Mark Zuckerberg Lex, and I'm like, it just doesn't work.
So it was such a cop-out, too, because you could tell that, they knew that they miscast him, but their way to justify it was, oh, this isn't Lex Luthor, this is Lex Luthor Jr.
Yeah, you only do everything, though, that would try to make him Lex, he's an enemy of Superman. You make him bald by the end of the movie, and you try to tell me that's not
that stupid snot rag coming out of his nose. I'm like, you put that back in your nose.
Yeah, I hated that, dude. That was just such a mistake, and that weighed down a lot of the movie for me because he's such a big part of the movie.
Yeah, dude. I feel like it would have been the same if you looking at the Batman that's coming out next year with Robert Pattinson. It's Paul Dano got cast as the Riddler. I feel like it would have been probably the same situation if you cast him as Lex Luthor in this movie.
Yeah.
I can't picture him as Lex Luthor either.
No.
Like Pipsqueak, or I guess fine, I'll call him by his real name, Jesse Eisenberg. Like Jesse Eisenberg, I can picture Paul Dano as the Riddler. Like
I've never seen like Lex Luthor. He's supposed to have a messiah complex. He's supposed to be I would be the Superman of this world if Superman didn't exist. Like people would be admiring me. And he says like, "Oh, I would cure cancer, but like Superman took the glory from me," you know?
right.
And like I've never seen that Lex, the modern interpretation of Lex, because obviously characters change over the decades. He used to be like a mad scientist, and then he was like a supervillain in a purple coat. But like for the past like 20, 30 years, Lex has been like a businessman, like a business mogul, and that's been the interpretation. And we had yet to see that on the big screen. Like Gene Hackman wasn't like that, Kevin Spacey wasn't like that. And I was like, okay, cool, we can finally see that. And they still didn't do it because he was like something else entirely. And yeah, he was a businessman, but he wasn't like the confident businessman he should have been. Like Lex Luthor shouldn't have a problem public speaking. Like when he's at that like gala and he's like stuttering, I'm like, he should be like relishing every moment of the attention. Like I just didn't get what they were trying to do with him. It just the red capes are coming. The red capes are coming. I'm like,
judge, jury, executioner. I'm like,
Martha.
Don't remind me, dude. Shut up. Just don't remind me. Oh,
yeah, he's definitely the worst, Lex. Like, I can't even I get maybe what they were going for, and I appreciate trying to be different. But if I can't recognize that character,
yeah, exactly.
If you had called him something else until he was bald by the end, probably I would have never thought that was Lex.
Right.
If you had just been some other name.
It was just like, oh, he's got red hair. Let's cast him.
Yeah, I don't know. It was weird. Yeah. It was weird. Bad choice.
Who's next on your list?
I put Kevin Spacey next.
I think I did too. I put Spacey next too.
Obviously, not even talk about what a horrible person Kevin Spacey is, and has turned out to be. Like, he was a phenomenal actor. But he's an awful person, and that kind of really stains a lot of his work. But even besides that, I think Kevin Spacey would have been a perfect Lex. Like, he looks like Lex from the comics.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he would have been perfect if Bryan Singer wasn't so devoted in Superman Returns to doing carrying over the Donner stuff. Because you could have done like business mogul Lex. You could have done like an interesting Lex, but instead they tried to keep the what's the word I'm looking for? Like a low level like thief kind of like con man type of Lex from the 70s who just wants land. Like, you know, like they tried to do Gene Hackman, but then the way he acted didn't feel like Gene Hackman's Lex, but his plot was like Gene Hackman's Lex.
Exactly.
Like, what are we doing?
It was the same exact thing. I'm like, how many times is Lex gonna beg for a piece of land? And
it just was weird. And like, just he was a little goofy. Like he has all the toupees, which I guess is a carryover from Hackman. But he's like walking into the museum, and they're like, "Oh, we close in 10 minutes," and he's like, "We'll only need 5." Like putting on like this weird character, and I'm like, what are we doing? It was just. It's like it couldn't decide if it wanted to be goofy or serious.
Yeah.
But it also wasn't Gene Hackman. It was weird.
Yeah, you know what Gene Hackman had over him too?
What?
Mr. Smucker!
Mr. Smucker! Yeah, this Lex just had wrong!
Superman will never...
WRONG!
Which I remember in all the trailers. And then Kryptonite. Kevin Spacey, bad person, not a great Lex. Could have been phenomenal.
I think the opening scene with him as Lex is phenomenally done. It's just the red.
When Noel Neal dies?
I think so.
And he like takes her shit?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's very well done. Mm-hmm. But then the rest of it, I'm just like, it's... If you're going to do a Superman movie so many years after the previous ones, just reboot it.
Yeah, I mean, they could have, I don't know, I feel like you could have made it work maybe, but that movie didn't make it work.
No.
Again, like I said, Kevin Spacey and Kate Bosworth, both of them, it's like they wanted to continue the Donner storylines, but then those two didn't even try to seem like the previous people. Right. Like Brandon Routh seemed like he was trying to be Christopher Reeve. Like
Right.
they were doing their own things, but then at the same time, Kevin Spacey's the way he was written was still like with like Gene Hackman Lex in mind.
Yeah.
It's like he could have been really good if it was a different version of Lex, but you know what? That's fine though, because fuck him. I don't like Kevin Spacey.
Who's next on your list?
John Shea, who I know you're not super familiar with, but he's the Lex from Lois and Clark,
Gotcha.
who I grew up with watching on like the mornings. And just the thing I remember most about him, he wasn't in that much of it, the show. I think he was only like a regular in season 1, and then I think he came back later on as like a guest star.
Oh, so he pulled a Rosenbaum.
Right, but he wasn't bald until he came back. I don't think he had hair in the beginning.
Yeah.
But he was. I just always remember the way he goes, Superman. Like he always would say it like that, Superman.
Just like I feel like that's like the classic like '90s way to say Superman. Superman.
Like he was a good Lex, so I liked him a lot.
That's awesome.
He was very charming. He was much more of like a public figure. Like
that's good.
yeah, I don't know. He was
Seems
good.
like that at least got it right.
Yeah.
Who's your number 2? I think our number 2 and 1, just like the Lois's, are the same.
My number 2 is Gene Hackman.
Yep, same here.
People might be like, that's sacrilegious, and I'm like, listen, Gene Hackman was great. Unfortunately, the Lex he plays is not my favorite type of Lex. Like I just talked about, he was a con man, he was like a swindler, and like that's fine and good, but I prefer like business, evil, corporate Lex. Like cold calculating.
Lex, right?
Yeah, not like bumbling like with Otis trying to like break out of prison. Australia. Like I don't really, I don't know. But like I mean, he was the best part of Superman 4 outside of Mark Pillow. So
I'm surprised they actually got him to come back for Superman.
You have my voice. No, you have my voice.
That's it. That's his weakness.
Like Gene Hackman was good. He was fun. It's just also it's like I always forget that he's wearing a toupee. Like at the end of the first movie, he pulls off the toupee and he's bald. But like I always forget that. I'm like, oh yeah, his Lex had hair, but he really didn't.
You basically hit it on the nail for me with Gene Hackman. I mean, I for the time, I think Gene Hackman was the quintessential Lex.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, and I think for a while people were in that mindset where it's like nobody's gonna top Gene Hackman. But there was one person, both our number ones, who did end up topping Gene Hackman. And I mean, just like Erica Durance was our favorite Lois Lane on a unanimous vote, our number 1 was Rosenbaum.
Yeah. No question.
Yeah, no question about it. Like
I think he's the best part of Smallville.
Like the dynamic that they set up in Smallville, where he's friends with Clark Kent, like he's trying to be friends with Jonathan Kent, but Jonathan Kent just is continually like fuck the Luthors.
Yeah. So Smallville was smart to really dive into what made Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And you see the relationship with Lionel, and you see like his backstory and like the abusive childhood and what happened with his mom, and like Lex had a super traumatic upbringing, and like
especially
his dad kept trying to like turn him into like this, like put him through all these trials and shit. Like
it's so weird because it mirrors like Clark's journey in that show, but like the opposite. You know what I mean? Like just like completely like vice versa like goals, I guess.
Well, I always liked you'd see Lex, especially in the earlier seasons, he would try to do the right thing, and he'd try to be helpful, and he'd try to, and like even then though, a lot of people like Jonathan Kent still wouldn't accept him, and like or like they would question his motives, and like sometimes he was up to shady shit, like he had even back then, like he's investigating Clark, and like but I mean, at first you can't really blame him for investigating Clark because he like remembers vividly, I hit that guy with my car
at 60,000 out.
Yeah, and like he's just curious, like he's just wondering what the hell happened, and like you can't really blame him for that. But yeah, he tries to do better, and Clark is like a good influence on him at first, but then the kind of friction between them starts to make Lex worse.
I tried to be your friend, Lex. But all you care about is power and control.
This is Smallville! Meteor freaks, alien ships, cryptic symbols. These threats are real. Someone had to take control. Someone has to protect the world.
Listen to yourself, Lex. You're so caught up in your own delusions, you've lost track of reality.
Have I? Then let's talk about something you can't deny. After years of pleading with my father to show me some compassion, he turned to you with open arms. Now, what would a worldly billionaire have in common with a simple farm boy?
Maybe he just knew he could trust me.
Of course. Everyone can trust Clark Kent. You're the perfect son. So why did Jonathan Kent always seem so stressed? I mean, was raising the perfect son really that much work? I wonder how much of a strain it put on his heart.
Are you blaming me for my father's death? Are you? You're the guilty one, Lex, not me. And this time you're gonna own up to what you've done. I know you killed Lionel.
Who's delusional now?
I have proof.
Here's what I love about his Lex Luthor too. Like, there's always a point of contention, I think, between fans as to what exactly made that version of Lex like evil. Was it his dad, or was it Clark lying to him all these years, or was it the fact that he just wasn't accepted by anyone not named Clark?
I would say it was his dad.
I would say it's everything.
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely a mix of everything. But I think Lionel doing the things he did to him and
the electric shock therapy,
yeah, or raising him the way he did, where he's like always like Lex is constantly surrounded by like Alexander the Great paraphernalia, or like all these things, like books by like the Art of War, and like all these things, fencing with his father, like everything was like a test and like a lesson, and like he got betrayed by his wife in a downed airplane. Like
nobody came to his birthday party. His like Lionel blamed him for his mother's death, or no, not his mother's death. Julian's death, right?
I think so.
It was really the mother that killed him.
Yeah, but Lex was a great character, and it was really sad when he left the show.
Yeah, I love too where it just it's in season 4. Like season 4 is really where you see him start to take off as like the Lex that's going to be conniving and evil, because that's where he starts to become so self-obsessed with like finding these stones that the witches, just vivid flash. But like that was like, I feel like there was shady shit going on before that, but like season 4 was like where it really like came down and like heated like his obsession for like everything, I feel like.
And then it was like season 7 was when I like, until then he was bad, but like you'd still occasionally get glimpses of like, okay, maybe Lex like has moments of like helpfulness, and like and like then, but in season 7 when he like when he kills his dad and then he burns his like young self in his mind, like that was when it was like, okay, that's when he becomes like fully Lex. And like I loved the way they still tried to incorporate him into the show even after Rosenbaum was gone. Which like occasionally it hit well, occasionally it didn't, but by the time he came back, I thought it was smart the way they did it. Although I would have preferred he not be dead, and then like he would just like got like healed or something. But like rather than but Rosenbaum coming back at the end, I thought was a great way to end the character up until the last like 2 minutes of his appearance. I was like, his scene with Clark, dude, in the burnt mansion, and he's like telling him like, we're gonna be great men because of each other. I'm like, yeah, like, and he's like, a good hero's only as good as
taken it, relished it,
embraced it. I'm like, that would have been awesome. Like, they made me buy that even though Lex knew Clark's secret, he wasn't ever gonna like reveal it to the world. Like, knowledge is power. He's gonna keep that to himself. And instead of just being like, oh, like I was like, okay, great, like cool, that's a cool way of doing it. And then they're like, no, we can't have that. We're gonna have to get mind wiped.
A figment of your imagination.
I'm like, what? No. So everything that Lex went through in Smallville amounted to nothing, pretty much. Because he didn't remember any of it.
Well, what's worse? Everything Lex went through in Smallville amounting to nothing, or the entirety of the show amounting to nothing thanks to Crisis on Infinite Earths.
You don't count that. That's not Smallville Kid. Yeah, that was rough. But I couldn't believe that when I was watching. Like, they're wiping his mind like of everything. Like,
Yeah.
what? So he didn't remember
The
Clark.
only,
He didn't
the
remember
only
anything.
thing, the only thing I like about that is that like they go back, or like they hint at like something that was rumored, like, or was prophesied to happen, like in the early seasons, where it's, oh, Lex is going to become like the president of the United States. That's the only good thing to come about that. Other
Yeah.
than that, that was a terrible decision, but
Yeah, I
that
just
doesn't take away the fact that Rosenbaum's still great.
No, he was great. It just was a weird decision at the end. I was like, why are we doing this? Like, the show's about to end. Like, can we just have this? It felt like it felt like whoever wrote the Jimmy Olsen twist just came in and wrote that real quick to, like, oh, wipe his mind. It's not like he won't remember anything. Like, he can't because he doesn't know. And I'm like, but this is its own version of Superman mythos. You can have Lex know. Like, you don't have to erase his goddamn memory. I was so pissed. Like, they might as well have been like, that wasn't the real Lex Luthor. That was Henry Alex Luthor. Like,
that was Lionel Jr.
Yeah, that was Lionel Lutessen Lex Lionel Luthor. Bilious Weasley Luthor.
Be like Harry Potter and give him every name he knows. Albus Severus.
Lupin Tonks Moody Potter. Like, I thought that was such a dumb decision right at the end. I couldn't believe it. When it was happening, I'm like, no, the finale was so good. And then it was like, oh, neurotoxins bind your memories. I'm like, what the? And then it got good again. But I was like, Jesus, that one little thing.
That's the one thing in the finale where I'm like, nope. Other than that finale is great.
Yeah. And Lex was great. Michael Rosenbaum killed it. I think he's the definitive Lex because he played like the villainous parts extremely well, but you also by far felt the most for him, and you understood that Lex more.
Yeah, especially with what he goes through, like the build up to how he becomes evil in the early seasons. Like, understanding what he goes through is quintessential to understand why he's evil, and you totally buy it.
Yeah, even when he is like evil at the end, like he still justifies his decisions in ways that make sense. Like, you could be like, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense, even though he's doing like horrible things, you know?
Right.
But he was great. I think he's the quintessential Lex, and I think considering how funny of a person Rosenbaum is, I think it's amazing that he played such a different character.
Dude, everybody on that show, man, just how they could. That's the thing about that show, cast so perfectly. Like, everybody could just tap into this this unfulfilled potential in themselves, and they just brought it out. I don't know how they did it, but they did. Welling, Durant's, Rosenbaum. I mean,
you know what I think of when I think of Rosenbaum as Lex? When he's walking,
real Lex.
No, I think of when he's walking down that like hallway, and all those hands are reaching out for him in jail. My eyes and lay me to sleep.
What I brought you, this you can
McNally remains in a low-level coma.
You may forget me. I promise you my heart just promised to sing. Kiss my
Put him with the
eyes
others.
and lay me to sleep. Kiss my eyes and lay me to sleep. This is what I thought you'd need me. This is what I thought, so think me naive. I promise you a heart you promise to keep. Kiss my eyes and lay me to sleep. Kiss my eyes and lay me to.
That's fucking epic, man. I was like, that's an amazing moment in a terrible episode. In an amazing moment.
It is super terrible. You know what I think of? I think of the moment he has Julian Luthor or Grant Gabriel killed, and then he comes out onto like his balcony. He's in the rain. He's like,
No!
Okay, just please take it and get out of here.
Julian.
Show me the dirt pile and I will pray that the soul can take 3 stowaways. Vanish with no guile and I will not pay, but the soul can wait. The soul can wait. Let us still pretty, what with all these leaks, we'll be fine. We'll be fine. But if it's still pretty, what with all these leaks, we'll be fine. Oh, and supervise.
Either that or I was raised in your shadow. Now you're gonna die in mine. No one will even know your name.
I'm always a fan of when he's arguing with Clark in that episode. He's like, "This is Smallville.
Yeah.
Meteor freak symbols. Somebody had to take control."
You know what one of my favorite Rosenbaum moments is? It's in Onyx, and he's got like the green kryptonite ring on, and he's just pointing the gun at Clark, and then Mrs. Kent's like looking at him, and he just gives it right back to her. He's like, "Yeah, I know about the green meteorites and Clark's special gifts."
I'm gonna give a shout out right now, just since we're talking about Smallville, to all the actors who played young Alexander.
Lucas Grabeel.
The kid who played him at like
We don't know his name.
Yeah, that kid, he was great. The other kid was pretty good, but I thought it was smart that when they had all these Lex flashbacks throughout the years, and then in the final season they had clones of Alexander,
One
and
that looked like Voldemort.
they brought back all those kids. But Lucas Grabeel, I thought, especially doing a Michael Rosenbaum Lex, like he made it seem like his mannerisms were very similar.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to Mackenzie Gray as that defective old Lex clone.
Are you talking about the Voldemort guy?
Yeah. Like there's one line, dude. There's that one line where he sounds just like Lex.
Yeah.
By the time you drag me to shore, I'm like, every time I hear it, I'm like, was that Rosenbaum? Yeah, they were all great too, but Michael Rosenbaum, man, he was great.
Yeah.
What's your favorite Jesse Eisenberg Lex moment, Alex? Does one exist?
No.
Remember in the Joss Whedon Justice League when he's like, they made a league, huh? I guess we'll need a league of our own. And I'm like,
Dude, and then in the Snyder cut, they had that exact same scene. I was like, oh fuck, here we go.
It was different. It was different.
I was like,
oh.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. You froze for a minute, so it was like, oh, it's different. And then what'd you say before you froze?
Just that it was, he was like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne's Batman, and I'm like, oh, thank God they changed the scene.
Yeah, thank God. Yeah, and I think that was his only scene in the movie.
Yeah, thank God.
The less of him you see, the better.
Like overall, I've come around where I'm like, if you want to continue the Snyderverse, go ahead. The one stipulation for me: do not bring back Eisenberg Lex Luthor ever.
No, exactly.
Restore the Snyderverse, except for that.
Bring Michael Rosenbaum. Dude, it's so crazy, too. How you go from the last live-action Lex Luthor before Eisenberg was Rosenbaum. Like, you go from Rosenbaum to Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Like, that's... Oof.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I said, I don't like what they went for.
You know what?
But I respect that they tried to go for something.
I'm taking Eisenberg off my list. He doesn't count.
Yeah, Rosenbaum's the best. Lex is great. Great character. Unfortunately, not always portrayed the best.
I don't think anybody's gonna beat Rosenbaum ever.
It'll be tough, for sure.
It'll be tough, yeah. I mean, the day might come.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't, but it might. But we'll see if that day comes eventually. And if it does come, I'll be like, yeah, he's better than Michael Rosenbaum. I mean, hey, Michael Rosenbaum doesn't even think he's the best Lex Luthor.
That's true. He likes Gene Hackman better.
Yep. So, all right, guys, that is us ranking the Lex Luthors. Check out our previous Superman rankings as well. The Batman ranking should also be up by this time. If we're ranking the Batmans, we got to rank the Alfreds, just so I can do Michael Caine. All buried in your members of the Wayne family.
I knew a man back in Burma. I found a ruby the size of a tangerine.
Before all this, before Batman, I used to take a holiday, and I used to pretend that I would see you with a little special somebody, and that you would be with that somebody, and maybe you'd have a little...
Dude, Dark Knight Rises, I could rant about that. I have problems with that movie. I have problems.
Who cares? It's fucking Michael Caine. Who cares?
Oh, man.
All right, well, that is the end of the video. Pat, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ThisPatGuy. You can also find me on the Cinemania World Show Hero Hour. Sometimes when we do Hero Hour, just occasionally.
All right. You can find me at my official website, alexmaddenmovies.mystrikingly.com. All my social media links are there. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden. No, my name is Alfred Pennyworth. Just kidding.
Look forward to our Jimmy Olsen ranked.
This is Smallville! You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden. That's Pat Guy. We'll see you at the movies somewhere.